you a woman in medicine feeling overwhelmed and disconnected from the personal fulfillment that you desire? You're in the right place. Join Doctors Joanne and Aaron as they rewrite the rules for women in medicine. Let's begin.
We are so excited to introduce you to our friend and fellow physician coach, Dr. Pamela Buchanan. And I actually got to meet Pamela in person at a conference in Washington, D.C. a couple months ago. She has so much information to share. She is a fierce advocate for so many different groups of people. She is a board-certified physician, stress management expert, TEDx speaker, and a purpose-driven coach dedicated to helping women in healthcare and female executives reclaim their lives from stress and burnout. And she's here with Dr. Joanne Sotelo, my favorite co-host, and we are going to explore so many different areas that Pam is an expert in. And I would love to dive deep into your advocacy, Pam, because you are an advocate for so many things: mental health, neurodiversity, and people of color. And I want to know, how do you manage it all?
Thanks, Aaron. When you're passionate about what you do and you're operating in purpose, it's not like you're managing it all. It's like I get to do it. And it's like at the end of the day, I wish I could do more, but there's only one of me. And so I just lean into what my zone of genius is, which is influencing and recruiting and working on a cause. And so whenever I feel like God does this to me, whenever I go through something, it teaches me how to better serve humanity, how to be a better doctor, how to treat my patients better. So doing it all I get to do it all. I like doing it. I actually love it.
And I love that empowered mindset about I get to instead of I have to, or that feeling of guilt. It sounds like you just lean in and embrace those things that you're passionate about. So powerful.
I do. I think what a lot of women don't do is think about, what do you want? Because I got into my 40s before I started thinking about what I want, because it was like what I have to do. I have to go to work. I have to see the patients. I have to work these shifts. I got to get the charts done. I got to take the kids to whatever they have to go through. And believe me, they will find something to sign up for. You got to have a date night. When is it ever going to be what I get to? Like, we have date night tonight and I get to do it because I started speaking up what I want to do. I don't want to see a show where everybody dies and nobody's in love. Let's make a compromise, And my son has games. He has games all weekend. I used to feel so guilty about not making every single game. Today it's raining crazy. There was a storm. I told my son, I do not want to sit in the rain and be drenched and watch you kick a ball to the net. I will come tomorrow when the sun is shining. I love you. All the best. Without the guilt, because I don't know why I thought I had to do it all. I don't know who told me that. And that's the big lie, I think.
So true. We talk a lot about that here. And I wish we had been recording our conversation while we were getting ready, because you were sharing that, like the figuring out what you really want to do. And thank you for saying it out loud, that you have to say it out loud. And, right, like we carry so much guilt. It's not good.
Because you think about it. If you're like me, so I grew up and I was very, very gifted in math and science. Still to this day, a lot of times I will figure out a problem in my head and people are like, I'm like, it's just a thing I do. And I had issues with processing and language. Even now, you might see sometimes I'm not looking directly in your eyes. It's a quirk of neurodiversity. When I was younger, they were calling it Asperger's. We don't use that term anymore. You got to look through all the ugly history associated with it. We call it on the spectrum. And a lot of people on the spectrum, I can tell now, I'm so keen to it. There are people who are clinically diagnosed and those who are undiagnosed. But being on the spectrum used to be such an area of shame for me. I used to be like, I am. In the African-American community, they would say things like, are you slow? Which, is a negative connotation. And my mom would say, no, she's not slow. She just learns differently. And so now I've leaned into being different, and it's helping me in my career, because I can take a system and review it and say, if we do it like this, it'd be much better, more efficient. And that is a quirk from being neurodiverse. that serves me now. It serves me also in the emergency room when everyone is freaking out, like, oh my God, they're bleeding or dying. I'm hyper focused on what can we do to stop it? What else? What can we do? And how do you stay calm? What used to be thought of as a negative is now my power. And so I lean into that now. And I encourage anybody who feels like whatever they have, however they are, is something that's not like everybody else, not like everyone else, not traditional. It is probably the thing that you excel at.
That is so powerful, Pamela. And I am constantly seeing women physicians posting about their struggles with their kids that might be neurodivergent, ADHD on the spectrum, their struggles in school. And I remember reaching out to one of those moms earlier this week and just said, hang in there and you can do this, and shared the story of my own son who was very ADHD, couldn't get his homework done. We let him drop out of high school as a junior. And I celebrate that success for him, because all of the things that happened in his life after that are serving him now as a combat medic in the Army. And had we forced him to do the normal way of, get your degree, get your high school degree, all those things instead of his GED, he wouldn't have had the same path, and that was what he needed. And yet, I think especially as physicians and people like, might be embarrassed to say, kid got a GED. And I'm not. I am so thrilled that he did that, because that was the right decision for him. And so I like to cheerlead on those moms out there that might be struggling and, my kid's not fitting in. They're a round peg in square peg in a round hole. And yet, as you're saying, you're using some of those things that might have been looked upon as a negative. They're your superpower and your strength. And so to all those parents out there who are worried about their own children, hang in there, because there is hope. And if you can provide the parenting that they want, I think that will help them find their success.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I practice what I preach. I used to sit up and worry, like, I don't know if you've ever seen Forrest Gump, when he found out he had a child and he was wondering, is he stupid? Is what he said. I used to worry, am I going to pass this neurodivergence on to my children? I don't want them to get teased like I did, to get bullied. My daughter freed me up so much, because out of my children, I have 3, 2 out of 3 are neurodivergent. And my daughter's, I was like, man, I'm sorry I passed this on to you, because she goes to therapy and she's an A student. She's in college, but she's very much so not what is traditional. She says, Mom, oh my God, I love my neurospicy family. Like, it's a fun salsa dance or dip. And so that freed me up so much. My kids are not worried about it. I am. And so I encourage the parents, we're worried about fitting into traditional norms, because that's what, the boomer generation put into us. If this, then that. If you go to school and become a lawyer, you will be happy. It is not true. We know that because 60% of people who work are burned out. That was something I just heard on a podcast from Forbes. 60%. I think, in some instances it's calculated as higher. So people are not doing what they want to do. They're doing what they think they should do, what someone told them they should do. So when your kid is neurodivergent, work with him, not against him. Let him be, and don't choose for him. Of course, we want him to be safe, and we want to guide, but you can't make them do anything. And they won't be happy, and you won't either.
This is so good. And what I hear is your struggles and what you had to figure out makes you such a better mom, right? And the fact that it's like, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's bring it out like as our spiciness and what makes us unique and different, and what a beautiful life you're creating for them, because it's right. Like, hopefully they won't have to deal with some of that shame that you're talking about. Just thinking like, what's wrong with me, right? It's like, no, what's different that makes me unique, right? It's a very different question to ask ourselves.
Yep, they don't have that shame, and I'm happy for them. I admire Gen Z for that. They lean into that.
I know that. And you talking something a little different, that you were mentioning burnout, and because I did my little research / stalking of all the things that you do, that you talk about how you also help other professionals and physicians, and you have like the cool formula that you have, and one of them is purpose is the prescription, which I love that, to help prevent burnout and not just manage it. Tell us more about that.
Yes, because in my struggles, of course, I worked in the pandemic. So in the middle of Missouri, in a rural area, and I would float, but I would go to the small hospital the most, and now under resourced and overwhelmed in an area that is very conservative, red state, don't believe in COVID. And so we had the combination of the pandemic raging, all while we had COVID deniers. And for some reason during that time, people became more mean and racist. So it stressed me to my core. I never got sick, so I worked a lot. I would come home from sometimes 12, sometimes 24-hour shifts. I'd come home, sleep, and then maybe I've only been asleep a few hours. My phone's ringing. Can you come back to the hospital? And I felt like such a war, such like I had to, so I did. All of a sudden, insidiously, I just wasn't myself. I felt like I didn't want to be here. I wanted to, I didn't want to live anymore. And one of my colleagues who was instrumental in training me, he died by suicide. And you never would have guessed it. Beautiful man, beautiful wife, beautiful family. I know he had some personal struggles. We thought he had overcome them. And then in a few days before that, he posted it was going to be okay. And this happened. That's when I knew I had to get help. And it was shameful to think that I wasn't okay. I thought I was strong. I felt weak. And when I went to get help, therapists helped me realize it's okay to not be okay and feel all the feels. And then she put into perspective, during that time, 2 or 3 people were dying in a day. I'm used to 2 or 3 people dying in a year. And every time a person dies and you're an ER doctor, you go, is it my fault? Did I do everything? Should I have acted sooner? And it's a lot to carry. And you take that and concentrate it in a short period of time. I wasn't taking care of myself. And so that's like many women. And all I was thinking about was everyone else. I was thinking about the kids. I don't want to give them COVID. Are they doing okay with homeschooling? Is everybody else okay? I wasn't sleeping much. I wasn't eating well. And then I just had to take a step back, put myself first. Therapy helped some. Medication helped some. I still wasn't awesome because my therapist was like, yeah, well, you need to do it. Quit your job. Take a break. Okay, I'm a 6-figure earner. High 6-figure earner. I can't do it. And I'm divorced. My kid's sole source of income. So my physician coach was like, okay, how can you do things in a way that suits you? I never thought about that. I was like, I just have to do what the hospital tells me to do. I just need to. And then when you realize the power of the dynamic of the power we have, we are the talent. The physician is the talent. You cannot do this without me. And so I began to ask for what I needed. And they did acquiesce. And then I realized, there's a physician shortage. Then I asked more of what I needed and created the kind of pace that I needed. And I also realized that I'm excellent at what I do. I don't think we realize that enough. So just like actresses and actors negotiate, you can negotiate as a physician. And realizing that helped me really get the kind of schedule I needed to be happier and less burned out. And then realize, what else do I want to do in life? My physician coach was like, my coach was a physician coach, and then I have a different life coach, and they focus on purpose. And I thought, well, purpose was woo-woo. Like, okay, you pray to Jesus and you get your purpose. I'm like, there's a scientific way of discovering your purpose using something called the purpose factor. And once I did that, I figured out what the best of what I had to serve others was. And once I started leaning into that after discovering my purpose, my life went into flow. My flow meaning it didn't seem like I had to do anything. It seemed like I got to do things because I picked what I was best at. And that's why I know that purpose is the prescription for burnout. Because if you really know who you are and the best of what you have to serve others, and you operate in that, I guarantee you will be less burned out. I don't think you'll be burned out at all.
Wow, so many nuggets there, and thank you for sharing your personal story as well. And sorry for the loss of your friend. Right, Erin and I are very passionate about that, and we talk about it here. Like it's what can we do? Why aren't we talking more about it? So I'm glad that you you were able to have the help and the insight yourself to move past all of that, and the understanding. It's not like, oh, just have a better perspective, just think brighter, and snap your fingers and it's all gone, right? Like, we have empathy for the difficulty and how much we internalize first of what, like you said, what's wrong with me? I thought I was stronger, right? And the shame that we put in ourselves that keeps us from getting the help that we need. And so neat that you're like, no, wait, that's exactly part of it. And then the connection to purpose. Right. And it's knowing there's going to be parts of our job that we're not going to like, that are hard. But if we're intentional about the purpose and the things that we love, and like you said, your zone of genius and where you're special, that creates such a beautiful fuel to then, like you said, the other things don't seem that hard because your tank is fuller, right? So how cool that you get to help others now with that prescription as well. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's what I enjoy. It's just, we have to realize life will life. And the whole notion of everything going the way it's supposed to go is a fallacy. We will have problems. That is the human experience. But we can't control how life will life. We can't control our perspective. We can't control our reaction. And we have to realize, especially as women, we don't have to do all the things.
And I love how you pointed out with this purpose factor, a couple of topics that Joanne and I frequently touch on is you got clear, that clarity piece. A lot of times we end up in a place in our life and we're like, how did I get here? It's like, well, you allowed life to push you in directions randomly. You didn't take control. And you talk about getting clear on what you want and finding that purpose. And then also being empowered, not a victim of your life. Life's happening to me, but you are choosing. And I love that combination in order to create your purpose.
There's a lesson in everything. The worst thing that happens to you, there's a lesson. And so listen and learn and grow. Don't sit and wallow in despair, but listen, learn, and grow.
And because you're so clear on your purpose, Pamela, we were sharing at the beginning of this podcast, we had a bunch of technical issues. You just had a big storm come through. Your Wi-Fi's out. You said you're recording in your car. You talked about a recent tornado, and you show up and you've got your beautiful smile and you are so intentional. And you texted me before saying, hey, I don't know if this will work, but let's give it a try. And you get into your flow, even when the bumps are coming, and you show up with a smile. And I just want to point out how powerful your role modeling is for others. When I see you advocating and speaking out on your posts on social media, when I listen to your TED Talk, it's very inspiring. And I think, like, how can I be more like Pamela? How can I be more of an advocate? And so I just want to congratulate you on being such a wonderful role model. And I'd like to ask you about one of the topics you've been posting on a lot about racial pay disparities in medicine. And I know I've pointed out some of the stories I've heard between male and female doctors, and you pointed out some discrepancies and helped raise my awareness of some even more egregious pay discrepancies. And I would love to hear some of the information you are advocating about and raising awareness to other individuals and physicians out there.
I'm glad you asked that question. I wasn't even thinking about that. But And one thing you said, you say, how can I be more like Pam? How can you be more like Aaron? Here's how you do it. There is something that you are passionate about that pisses you off to the highest levels of passivity. And that is the thing that you speak out on. And when I coach my clients, I always tell them, the thing that you probably should be doing is I do a lot of business and life coaching. People are like, I don't know, what should I do? It's probably the thing that pisses you off to no end, you know? And you get into that thing and you be the change you wish there were. So here's the thing that I didn't even think about. I have a lot of colleagues who are in medicine like me, especially African-American physicians. And I'm like, well, why are you struggling? We're doctors. You know, I'm not struggling. I do pretty well. I make good money. I realize I'm doing better than many of my peers. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? Well, the average Black female physician makes $100,000 less than her white counterpart. I've gotten some different statistics. but usually from JAMA and Medscape. And I know I've seen as high as the average white male making somewhere around 350, while the black female makes, in the low 200s. And then the scale goes that white women are next in terms of pay, and then black men make a little more, and then the white men make the most. And it's not just because of picking specialties. It's within your own specialty because they accounted for that. Because you're like, well, maybe it's because they're cardiothoracic surgeons or so on and so forth. Because that's what I thought at first. Well, I was like, well, maybe all the women are in pediatrics and primary care psychiatry. That's not it. And here's the core of it. For me, I got blessed. I got lucky. I had some great allies and colleagues. And also I learned early how to negotiate. My first job, I was just so happy to get a job. I wanted to be a doctor my whole life. I'm neurodivergent, so it's unlikely that I would become a doctor. And I was just happy. I'll take whatever job and just pay me something and it'll be okay. That is the mindset many women go into negotiation with. Without having researched, without knowing the market for the area, without talking to other people who are doing similar jobs. And so one of my first jobs, it was really my second job at a major hospital system. I was making what I thought was great money. I was so happy with this contract. And one of my colleagues, Sarah, I will never forget her, and we're still good friends. She sends me pictures every year of her kids and her family. But she pulled me into her office. She says, "Hey, Pam." She's like, "So what are you being paid?" And I was like, "You don't talk about that," because they teach us. That's like talking about something uber personal. And she's like, "No, Pam, we need to talk, because if we don't, they'll get over on us. What do you make it?" And I told her, and she says, "Are they paying your loans?" And I said, "No." And she was mad. She threw her stethoscope down and she says, "You go back, you go talk to the chairman. You tell them you won't work another day until they pay your student loans and give you a $10,000 raise." I was like, "I can't do that. I just got divorced. I need this money." She said, "Do you have a drug problem?" I said, "No." She's like, "You show up to work every day. You have good patient satisfaction. Go get your money." Scared, I did it. And guess what? There was no pushback. I said, "Okay." Didn't even look at me. Just said, "Okay." Signed off on it. It was on my next check. That was my first lesson. And my second lesson was when I began in the ER, because I was working in private practice for a while, but then the ER was paying more. And I'm glad I did that right before so I went to the ER. And Randy, we're still good friends now too. Randy was working there and she says, "Pam, did you get your sign-on bonus?" I was like, "No." And she said, "You go right in there, you get your sign-on bonus." And guess what? My pay increased by $75,000. I got a $75,000 sign-on bonus because of a friend. So I've learned now to negotiate.
I think as women, we assume we're going to be given what we're worth. We're going to be valued. And I remember hearing a story about a male and female physician on another friend's podcast where there was an $80,000 difference in pay. Same job, same department, same credentials, and $80,000. And they thought it was a mistake. And the feedback was, no, he asked for it. She didn't. And you're sharing information about even greater discrepancies in pay. And so if you were to have someone, where did you start to learn to be more likely to advocate for yourself? Or where did you learn those skills besides being encouraged by your friends or colleagues that cared about you enough to help you succeed even more financially?
So I learned from my allies. And so you need friends who understand the system. Don't be afraid to ask. Number two, don't be afraid to talk amongst your peers. It's okay. The system wants you not to talk. They want to save money, but they should be fair. And number three, research the market. The data is everywhere. We live in an information age. You can ask ChatGPT, what does the average physician who does whatever specialty make in St. Louis, Missouri? And that's how you do it. And when you go and you negotiate, we are in a doctor deficit, a doctor shortage. You need to be paid what you worth. And don't be afraid to say, well, I won't take this, because if you take a job and you're making less than what you should be making, you'll be miserable because they're taking advantage. So pick the job that will pay you a fair wage that you can enjoy. And if it's not that, then create your own reality. And people think that is so difficult. It's actually not as difficult as long as you don't give up on it. And so, you can do something sensible while you're trying to do something that is really what you like to do.
I have been taking so many notes. Like there's like a million formulas for success in this podcast. Oh my goodness. I hope that you're all really listening to all the pearls and nuggets and wisdom that Dr. Buchanan is sharing with us. And you answered some of the questions that I had too. And I just want to mention out loud what you just said. Oh my God, that was so good. Of like, find the thing that you're passionate about, but that also pisses you off. And you use another funny word after, like high levels of, what was the word? You said
Passivity.
something
Not a real word.
Passivity.
The highest levels of passivity. Because look, I was
Thank
trying to
you.
do a thing. I was trying to do a thing, and I was trying to be what I thought I should be. But I said, let me just be authentic and me the way I am, my full Black female self, with the way that I was raised and the way that I talk, without trying to fit in this cisgender white male box. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but why am I trying to be like him? I am not him. And so when I just did me, then success came.
I love that. I love making up words too. So just let you know, I'm gonna like use that word and be like, I have this new word from Dr. Pamela Buchanan. Everyone needs to know it.
When I
Passivity.
teach
Okay.
my clients, I'm like, you got to get there, because the riches are not in the middle. There's no riches in love, or people either need to love you or hate you. There's nothing in the middle.
Again, more nuggets here. So powerful. And I had like this big question and it went away because I got excited here. Yeah, I've learned to embrace also my Hispanicness and let my Puerto Ricanness come out. Like, because I used to be so serious, like, no, I'm a doctor and I have to tone all of that down. I'm like, no, what? Like, I was literally told that, like, you need to look uglier, more like older, and you gotta tone that down, even your voice. I was like, oh, like, can you believe that? Like, as a resident, that was some of the messages I heard. But anyways, I'm glad that I'm not there anymore, and I love and I'm in a big time for transition. So I love what you just said of, if what you want is not out there, create it. With and with the note of, it's not that hard, because right, like we let our brain fool us into like, oh no, it's going to be so hard, and like, well, and even if it's a little bit uphill, let's go uphill, let's do it, right? Like it's so like, love the message.
Yeah, I'm a scientist, so it's science. So you get your momentum, like Newton's law, and object in motion to sustain motion. As long as you're moving towards it, it will go. Especially if you're operating in purpose and you're convicted about it. You're like, I should be doing this. Nothing worth having is easy. I'm not going to tell you that, but it's less hard when you love it.
We usually take notes of quotes while we're doing the podcast, and I don't know, how are we going to choose? We're going to have like 5 pages of quotes here with you. Thank you. I wanted to ask you, because you said so many good things in terms of advocacy and speaking up and finding that thing that you're passionate about. And if there's someone who's like hearing you and they're so inspired and they have that thing that pisses them off and they want to talk about it, what would you say to that person in like where to start? Like where would be some good places, like more specific tools and strategies they can use?
All right. So first and foremost, assessments. I'm a big science person. An assessment. I like the purpose factor. Know what the best way you have is to serve others. So get into that. And then number 2, get into a group, get a guide. Success doesn't happen alone. Even the people that you admire, they surround themselves around people who are doing what they want to do, have done it, or working towards that. And so I'm in groups. I've been in masterminds. I have a coach. I have a coach that holds me accountable, and a coach for like multiple areas of my life. I have a fitness coach because I will not work out on my own. I need to, because I want to be healthy and I want to live a long life. I have a business coach because I need to work on my business sensibly every week. I need to be making strides. And, I need less and less of a life coach because I'm operating in purpose and I'm feeling so fulfilled that that's less. But I do check in with her I have a squad. My group of girlfriends, we're all working towards similar things. We're all high achieving professionals. We check in every single day.
It has been so great having you share so much wisdom with you today, Dr. Pam. And I wanted to share with you, as you know, our podcast is named Create Meaning in Medicine, Rewriting the Rules for Women Physicians. And I would love to know from you, how are you rewriting the rules for women physicians?
Number one, I'm trying to be perfect. As you can see right here, right now, I'm in my car because my internet is not working at home and my computer just shut off. So we're having to piece things together. That used to drive me nuts. It used to ruin my whole day when something didn't go as I thought it should go. So that's one way I think we need to rewrite it, because even in your clinic, you get behind and then you're behind for the rest of the day. Just go with it. Actually prepare for it. I have protein bars and things to sustain me in case it happens. And it's okay. I'm not going to be mad. I'll shake it off at the door and keep going. And so I think that's one of the big ways we rewrite the rules. The other thing is talk to each other. What's a fair salary? What's a fair benefit package? What should I be negotiating for? What's common now? Get into those different groups, get into support groups. I am actually working on creating a group for physicians where we can talk about this stuff, especially females and and people of color. And I like the term minority. It feels kind of limiting, but people of color. I'm going to call it melanated medicine because we don't make our fair share. It's in data that the average Black female physician is making $100,000 less. How did I get into my 40s and not know that? And the only reason I'm making a fair wage is because my friends who were not Black, who were white, who told me what I should be making. And so we need to do more of that. Because if we want doctors to stop burning out, we need to be fair. And we need to make sure that you're getting time off, you're recharging, and don't try to bro your way through it. Just work until you fall out. You do know that average physicians die sooner than the general population. The whole benefit of being a woman is erased when you're a physician. So women tend to live longer than men, but it's erased when you're a female physician. And I think that's because we try to just force our way through life, try to just make everything happen. You can't. So slow down, do what you can, and realize nothing has to be perfect. Like me recording now in a car.
This is so good. Oh my God. Like we like to summarize. I'm like, how am I going to summarize all these amazing things? This is definitely an episode to re-listen and really sit with it and take notes. And there's so many important things that we talked about, and that I can hear a part 2 and a part 3 with all the amazingness that you're sharing with us, Pam. And right, like we talked about the importance of advocacy and kind of that good distinction of when you're doing what you're passionate about and when you're in your purpose, it should not feel as work. And that by itself is a protection for our well-being and protection for burnout. And having the clarity of what you want, we talked about a lot of that in this podcast, and then saying it out loud. And I love your examples of I asked and they said yes. And the awareness ahead of time of knowing what to ask and what's fair and all those amazing things. And that the importance that we all have a voice, where so much of our audience are other women physicians. And then, like Erin was saying earlier, that we tend to just, be polite and be grateful. And, we're here to serve. And we're also here to be paid what we're worth and to, and it's not necessarily just always money, but accommodations or time off or, changes in our schedule. So all the things that we can advocate for ourselves and then advocate for other people. And knowing and creating it, if we don't know, if it's not there. And I love you're saying like we're scientists, so really we'll look into it, the purpose factor and the importance, right? And it's something that we're passionate about, the community and how much we need it and how we heal in community, and that the importance to find that and have other voices give you information and help you advocate for yourself and others in that sense of fulfillment. And again, I can just keep on going on and on about all the amazing things. And so if someone wants to hear more from you and would like to see what you have, what are some good places where they can reach you?
All right. To get with me, you can text the word strong to 55444. That's where I can send you a guide of 5 ways to decrease your stress, because I think it's very important. Also, drbstrong.com. And I do have a book. It's called White Coat, Black Face, How to Get Over Your Emotional Flatline. And you can get that at Amazon as well.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Pamela, you have shared so much wisdom, and I would encourage our listener, you also have a TED Talk that is amazing. And stay tuned for future episodes. I'm sure, as Joanne said, we will interview you again. And with that, we would invite you to not only take a look and see where you can find Dr. Pamela Buchanan, but stay tuned for our next episode. It's coming right up.
Do you want exclusive resources and the opportunity to connect with us? Then visit createmeaninginmedicine.com now, where you'll dive deeper into how you can create meaning in medicine. And if you're serious about optimizing your results, take 2 quick steps now. Connect with us on the website and tune in to the next episode.